thing on? Alright, there we go. Baruch Hashem, not in the car. For work I have a hotel room. So here I am. So let's learn the Heilige Elimelech, Parshas Behaalosecha. Please stay today in very exciting teaching. By Daber Hashem Moshe Behaalosecha Seneros. Zemai Seminar Kamara Kainos Seminar. Reading from the book of Numbers, and the Lord spoke to Moses, when you bring up the lamps, this is the work of the candelabra, of the menorah, according to the vision that God showed Moses, thus did he make the menorah. So the commentaries looked at this carefully. Why is it mentioned here? This is the work, craftsmanship of the menorah. It seems to be superfluous. So there's a Gemara in the end of Makos, where it mentions various biblical figures. Starts off saying that there are 613 commandments, of which there are 365 negative commandments, the thou shalt nots, and 248 thou shalts. The various biblical figures tried to summarize them into various categories, lowering the number, so to speak, literally standing them on these various numbers. So David had his numbers and so forth. Until the prophet Habakkuk came about. He established the entire Torah on one commandment, on one biblical verse, "V'tzadik v'menusah yichya," which we will translate as "the righteous lives by his faith," meaning faith is the summary of the entire Torah. All the 613 commandments are expressions of that one commandment of faith. Yishlemer al pi the kasavnu kvar. We can say, based on that which we've already written, that so Heilige Elimelech explains that we could say, according to what we've already written, that when a person begins his walk, his journey in worshiping God, he has to first make for himself fences, limits, and all kinds of various ways of conducting himself, in order that he should behave himself in his worship. But once he reaches these high levels, once he gets to a certain point, he doesn't need all these extra things, because he's already gotten to the point of his worship, the purpose. Because the higher person goes, the closer he comes to unity. And so similarly, he becomes unified in his deeds and in his conduct. Meaning, when you're starting new, you're new Baal Tshuva, you might do all kinds of extra chumras, things you don't need to do. But then you could get to a point where you can go back and not be as extreme. For example, a bacher who go to yeshiva, and he's going to be separated from all the technology. He's not going to have a smartphone. He's not going to have a television. Not going to have a computer. And then he's going to keep going, and he'll be strong in his Yiddishkeit. And then maybe he could go back to. It's not a big deal if he watches a clean movie or something like that, or watches the news, or watches a baseball game. Because his whole being has already been transfigurated to the point where he recognizes God in those things. Those are no longer distractions, as they maybe were when he got started, but they became something that he could appreciate and say, oh, this is a gift from God to have these pleasures, etc., that are not really prohibited. So this is the concept that we could learn here homiletically of what it means that King David summarized the entirety of the 613 commandments into 11 commandments. Because the number 11 represents, symbolically, hints to, the worlds that are unified by and with the worship of the saint, of the tzaddik. It is known to those who are knowledgeable in the hidden wisdom of Jewish mysticism, of the Kabbalah. And it is known that this is the main purpose of Torah and good deeds, to perform unifications, and the world, as is known, and Isaiah came, and he stood the entire Torah on 7 commandments. Why 7? When a person is higher in his worship, in the service to God, then he brings everything to the 7 great supernal luminaries, the 7 midos. Until Habakkuk came and established them all on one commandment, means that everything comes to that purpose of the worship, that it should all come to total unity. And this is the ultimate destination. So this, that God commanded the saint, represented as the archetype of the kohen, of the priest. When you bring up the lamps, meaning the 7 lamps of the menorah, that you want to raise up your devotional Torah study and your observance of the commandments, which are called luminaries, which are unified with the supernal luminaries, which are 7. Tira, Ikar Shiavaya Kol, Al-Achdus Gomer. You should see and make sure that everything is coming to the total unity. Hu al mul panei menorah. That's the meaning of in front of the face of the menorah. Hakavana al shirish. The intention here is on al shirish hakol, is on the root of everything, Makor Elyon, and the supernal source. If you say, isn't it just the opposite? The lamps are a vessel, a place to receive the lights, a container. Hanasunim behem, which is given to them, and menorah atzma hidavar avios yosim and aneros. The menorah is something that is thicker, more solid than the candles, than the lamps, and the fires, the flames. Veichnase min atafel ikar. So how do you make from that which is secondary into something that is primary? So teretz, this is the explanation. It's not a wonder, it's not shocking that the menorah itself was made in a physical way. It's a ma'isa menorah. This is the work of the menorah, kamar asher hara ba'ar, like the vision that was shown in the mountain. Meaning with that very holiness, shenasa b'har, was made in the mountain, kein asa b'kan. So thus we make it here. V'hi baruch niyoseha mitchila ad seifa. It has its spirituality from the beginning to the end. If that's the case, Lefi zeh menorah atzma hi remez la'achdus hagomer. That menorah itself represents the archetype of the total unity. But neres him neged shiva me'oros al yoinim. The lamps of the menorah represent the archetype of the 7 supernal luminaries. V'toiv yoser lahavi al kol ha'achdus gomer. But it's better to bring everything to total unity. Ki zeh ha'ikar asharish hakol, because this is the main root of everything. V'havin. You should understand this well. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment, and we'll see you later. Maybe we'll do one more. We'll make it a separate video. Thank you for watching. How do I turn this thing off?